Hello and welcome to the dungeon. My name's Dan and in today's video we've been playing a lot of Gears of War 5. Oh, wait, hang on. Sorry, I hear some typing in the background. It might be my comment section. That's right, sorry, I do apologise. It's just Gears 5. I wonder how much of the budget that saved. To be fair though, I can see why the initials of God of War and Gears of War could be confusing to some people in its written format, so I guess they didn't want to compete anymore with Sony on that front. But yes, this is Gears 5 and that is absolutely fine. Now, first of all, a bit of backstory. I am a huge Gears of War fan. I've played through every single of the numbered entry. I haven't played Judgment yet, which is really surprising since Damon Baird is my favourite Gears character. But hey, I don't have that much time on my hands, and plus I'm never really a big fan of prequels, particularly in video games, because if I'm used to a character, why would I want to go back in time to where they weren't as cool? But anyway, 1 to 4 I've played through, I've loved. I think they've been really good, entertaining experiences. And there's probably more to them than just the image of them being a generic third-person cover-based shooter, which they are, and more importantly, kind of set off that genre. So yes, I love the Gears of War franchise. I've got the novels, I've got the board game, I've got the t-shirt. I'm just really into my Gears. And my favourite part of the Gears franchise would have to be the single player / co-op campaigns that you can do, and the various character interactions. So, believe me when I say that the campaign for Gears 5 could be the best Gears campaign they've ever done. Could be, I need to replay 2 again, to be sure. But this campaign is great. But Dan, I hear you cry, what is a Gears and why is it at war? So let me give you a very brief introduction to Gears. So on this distant planet called Sarah, there is a human society called the Cog, and actually there are some other societies that are human, but I'll go into that into more detail later. Anyway, this society is kind of like ours, but somewhat more advanced by about maybe 50 years or so. Also, they have a very large military budget, so that explains all the power armor and rifles with chainsaws and all the grenades lying around. Below the surface of Sarah are a bunch of people called the Locust, and the Locust rose to the top of the surface for reasons that 2 and 3 go into in more detail, and they don't really like the humans, so a big old war took place, and that's basically it really. The Locusts look very grotesque looking, very pale in some places, big, bulky dudes with bigger and bulkier guns. Very much a standard warrior class type race, so think your orcs, think your Klingons, but they've got some depth and nuance to them. In fact, the main antagonist of Gears 1, or the original Gears, you could say, General Ram, has his own comic book series. There's a lot of lore there, and it's not always black and white as to who the bad guys, although mainly it's the Locust, they're the bad guys. Right then, in the first 3 games you mainly played as one big bulky guy called Marcus Phoenix. I'm sure you've seen him before, voiced by Bender. Anyway, he had some adventures. By the time of the 4th game, that's the Gears of War 4, not Judgment, he has had a family. He has a son. The son is now grown up, called JD, and it's JD's time to have an adventure. Gears 5 picks up with JD's friend, possible love interest, but hey, who knows, called Kait Diaz. Now Kait has her own history with the Locust, which are now called the Swarm as well, for reasons. Cue lots of shooting, explosions and machismo, and you have the shooting down in a nutshell, although when it comes to machismo, this one is somewhat lacking. The banter in this one isn't as good as previous entries, but it makes up for that in lots of other areas. So let's quickly talk about the plot. There's not much to it. See, that was quick. This game has 4 acts. In the first act you're trying to get hold of a super weapon. In the second act you're trying to get some information about Kait's heritage. In the 3rd and 4th act you're also trying to get hold of a big super weapon. As I said, very quick, there's not really a lot in terms of plot. This is very much a character-driven storyline, and I'm completely fine with that. Gears of War has always been a very linear game in terms of gameplay. It's effectively a corridor shooter with some wider paths to it and some routes that you can choose to go through as opposed to others if you wish, although not so much in this one, which again is a little disappointing. But effectively, it's a case of you start here, you need to get to there, have some more story, and then a brand new, slightly different objective. Is the plot basic? Yes, but it's not really trying to be anything else, and I appreciate that. Sometimes a simple story is good enough, and in this case I would say it sure is. I really want to talk about the characters a bit more detail, but we're really going into spoiler territory, so I'm going to have to refrain myself for the time being. What I will say is, if you happen to read the Metro review in this game, I will say screw you Metro, because they said this game had little to no characterization. Again, I don't want to give any spoilers, but this game has tons of it. In the first act, one major character has to live with the consequences of his or her actions, and in the second act, a character has to face some very ugly home truths. This has death of major characters throughout the storyline. Towards the end, there's a very harrowing choice to it. I'm really not trying to spoil this for anyone, but if you are a fan of the Gears franchise, and you do like the storylines and the characters, definitely play this before you get really spoiled. The characters in this game have growth, they have arcs, and they have a lot of witty banter amongst them. If that's your thing, you'll have a good time here. But the core selling point of Gears 5 is the combat, and the combat is still fantastic. This is a cover-based shooter, as I've already mentioned. You choose your firearm, you run to some cover, you hide behind it or under it, and you try and shoot the enemy before they get to shoot you. You can get close and personal, you can knife them should you wish to, and they can also knife you. You have a wide selection of firearms to use. The Lancer is a popular favourite with the chainsaw at the front, so it's like a chainsaw from 40k, but a gun as well. And there's a new additional Lancer with a grenade launcher. You've got the regular stockpile of shotguns, sniper rifles, pistols, with the Boltok being my personal favourite. That's just great for headshots. Various heavy ones, which is an additional one you can carry around but makes you a little slower, and that includes things like chainsaw blades, a big old cannon, and a new one which I really like is the cold spray, which you use on an enemy and you freeze them to death. And yes, you can use this in multiplayer, which I found to my delight. Combat is very visceral, very heavy, very bloody, as I mentioned. You can do executions to break necks, to tear guys in half, as well as grenades and other explosions sending limbs flying. If you have an allergy to gore explosions, then I would suggest looking elsewhere. And that's not just what you can do to the enemy has lots of different ways they can really mess you up as well. The variety is very strong. You've got the basic drones and their various weapons. You've got the smaller ones, which are more agile and are harder to hit, but get up close to you and try to claw your eyes out. Some of them have bomb jackets, but I'm sure they're very peaceful. You've got bigger bastards that pounce around a lot and hit you with their tails, and even bigger, nastier bastards called snatchers, who will jump to your area and will try to abduct you with their tentacles. This was a beastie from Gears of War 4, which I hated with a passion because it took a lot of damage for it to finally release you, and once you've been swallowed by said big beastie, then you have a time limit to escape, but you have no way to do so whilst you're within it. You have to rely on your teammates to not mess up and to shoot the thing in its lower glowing body part before it will release you. Now in Gears 4 this was a massive pain because it took so much damage before it finally gave up the goods. Gears 5 and it's a little better. Only a few shots now will make it regurgitate you, which I am very thankful for, because I hated it in Gears 4 with a passion. You've also got some mechanical creatures, and these are effectively robots of the COG, which is the main governmental body of the planet. And these robots, when they come into contact with a massive skyward swarm of leeches, go a bit crazy and try to kill you. They're also quite fast and have a tendency to explode as well, so keep your distance. You've got various ranks of the new swarm / locust, and they come with their own skills and weaponry, such as the hunters, who can go invisible for a short amount of time and like to shoot you with their torque bow, which is a flaming bow and arrow effectively that explode. As you can tell, there are a lot of explosions in this game. And then you've got the really big annoying fuckers called the wardens, who have double maces and a helmet and like to really mess up your day. Are some of these very bullet spongy? Yes, I suppose so, and whilst bullet spongy enemies aren't great, there is a lot of more fragile ones to really mix it up. Far more often, you'll go down to just being overwhelmed by the enemy numbers as opposed to any one particular one outside of a boss battle. Which, there aren't many actually, I was quite surprised. In fact, there's maybe 3 or 4 at most, maybe not even that. The boss battles though do require you to pinpoint your gunfire and taking off the glowing orange parts of the enemy's body, otherwise you can really hurt them. There's a lot of strategy as well when it comes to using the various firearms. You can actually hold 2 big ones, 1 pistol, and grenades, and if you find one, a heavy as well. So 5 different forms you have to defend yourself, not to mention using your knife. Some weapons obviously work better than others in different circumstances. Obviously you'll want to use the sniper rifle when your enemy at the gatesing the locusts from across the map, whilst other times when a swarm of leeches come your way, it's all hands to the shotgun. Switching between them and knowing when to do so is a skill in its own right, particularly when you have to master the fast reload. This series makes reload a art form as you try to time it just right so you can get a new clip / bullet in and then get back to the action. Should you fail, then you have to wait until it goes in correctly. In a very frenetic firefight, that wait can seem like a lifetime, especially as damage from enemies can make you reset the whole process again. Now, further gameplay improvements over other Gears titles are the actual firefights themselves. This one has a lot of special places where you can really use the environment. Take the ice regions for example. Here you're fighting on a frozen lake effectively, so if you use explosives and other weapons correctly, you can actually blow a hole in the ice below your enemy and they can sink to their frozen death. In another environment, in the desert, there's a lightning storm going on, and when the lightning strikes the sand, it creates this brand new black structure which you can use as cover. Very cool, very nice to look at, and something I've not really seen before in a shooter game like this. Actually creating cover when there wasn't any. The biggest gameplay departure though is the fact that this game opens up a lot more in Acts 2 and 3. It's not quite open world, or at least it is in 2 areas. You're basically given a skiff and a means to ski on the sands / snow if you wish, and you get to go to various parts of this open world area and complete side missions, which is really a first for Gears. It's definitely trying to expand its core gameplay. I think considering Gears 4 was very safe, very familiar, just really an extension of the former games, going forward like this is probably for the best. Using the skiff is a lot of fun, particularly when you gain height on various dunes, and I really like the attention to detail, particularly when you crash your skiff into either the left or the right side of it against a rock, because if you have a guy on the left or right, then each one makes a noise, and it's a different noise depending on which guy it is. Yeah, I tried it and I noticed. Plus, the really handy thing is you can stow weapons here, even heavy ones, so if you think there'll be a firefight in the near future, which there always will be, then you can put a big old mulcher on one side, a tri-shot on the other, and be prepared for action. Opening up the game like this was always going to be a risk, and I think it does work. for the most part. It lets you see more parts of the world, it lets you experience things like other survivors and where they live, such as the UIR, which is, and I didn't really know this until playing this game, is the Sarah version of Russia. COG isn't the only government in town, and there are some more, and they don't really like the COG, but they like the Swarm less, so one particular guy is a cool ally to you, and yes, they're effectively sand Russians. Who'd have thought it? Other cool things I noticed in the sandy slash snowy area, which is very cool, is the fact that you actually leave footprints in the snow. You can leave trails in there, as well as the sand, and it's like walking in a real desert slash snow, I imagine. And yes, in case you're wondering, of course I use my time well to make a giant cock in the snow. Who wouldn't? With regards to these side quests though, you're looking to get a lot of new collectibles if you fancy collecting every bit of lore you can about the game, as well as new upgrades for your drone Jack. Now he is also a big difference to this game. Not so much him being there, since he was there in the original Gears game, but the fact that he can do now a lot more stuff. This is very much an RPG part of the title, which they're looking to explore with. Jack is now an upgradable support teammate who you can control in the campaign as well, which is great, and you can use various upgrades for him to improve his abilities. These include things like zapping the enemy, reviving you, putting a shield around you, making you immune temporarily to environmental effects such as fire and gas, making you invisible, and picking up weapons which are on high places that you can't reach to. He is a very faithful dog's body, and it's kind of cool having him float around doing your dirty work. The only problem is that I'm used to Gears of just shooting the enemy, so oftentimes I completely forget to even use his abilities, and I give him some upgrades which I find across the landscape, and then forget to use them. In fact, for the final battle, I had about 20 remaining, which I forgot to allocate to his abilities, which might have made a difference, but who knows. So yes, the Coalition are very much branching off into new territory with this one, and I think they could have gone a little further. You see, I would have liked to have seen some more of the RPG-ness creep into the actual characters themselves, in the fact that maybe you do more damage with a certain type of weapon, or you have better health in certain areas, your reload time has increased, just little things like that, just to make Kait or whoever a little bit beefier in combat. How you are at the start of the game is exactly as you are at the end. Weapons are still very disposable in the fact that once you've used one and it's out of ammo, you just throw it away and collect another one, so I can see why they wouldn't want to give weapon upgrades like that, although you can find relic ones across the open world, which gives you a better reason to do some more exploration. And the relic weapon is just like a regular one, but better in certain ways. I would have liked to have seen more dialogue options as well, and to be fair, there's a bunch more I would have liked to have seen, but we really are getting into a different genre of game at that point. And to be honest with you, I'm glad they still focus on the very satisfying gunplay. Maybe in the future we can actually have a more RPG themed Gears game, and that could be very good with more moral dilemmas with regards to things like outsiders, and maybe you can have a Locust character who has been exiled from the Swarm. There are certainly some possibilities. And where the hell is my tactics-based Gears game? That was shown off at E3 2018, and I want to play it now because I love tactics games and I love Gears, so that is a match made in gory heaven. Now there is some bad about the campaign as well, and that is padding. Oftentimes, unlike previous games, you'll have to do a tower defense type dealy, where Jack is busy trying to cut through a door, and you have to defend him whilst waves of enemies come at you to do some nasty things to you. It's not too excessive, as in you only see maybe 3 or 4 missions like this in the entire campaign, but it is a little lazy. Especially since Gears 4 had this thing called a fabricator, where you could actually create your own defenses, like turrets and dummies and traps, things like that. Now, the Fabricator does exist in Gears 5 too, but only in the Horde mode, not in the single player campaign, which is weird. So, a few instances of that, but mostly what really annoys me about the campaign is the padding in other areas, such as having to do bitch work for various people. This includes switching off generators or stopping cooling vents, which is what I had to do in Act 2 when I'm just getting to the real meat of the story and I want to hear some more, but we have to take a slight detour because it's a bit cold in the engine room. Pace braking and put in there for no other reason but just to annoy me, so I believe. Oh, and can we talk about the training aspect at the start of the game? Yes, this has a tutorial. It's quite long. It's quite good, I'll give it that, but it's also mandatory, and it teaches me how to play a Gears game. Bearing in mind I've played 4 previously, this was very unnecessary and I would have liked to have skipped it. Also, you don't get to be in a giant mech like you did in Gears 4. You get to be in a little one, the Silverback, but the giant yellow one, not so much. Although Cole does, so good for him. And one thing I noticed is there's a lot of door openings in this campaign, and I mean a lot. Often you'll go to a slab of metal with your AI teammate or control teammate, depending on if you have friends to play with, and you'll spend a lot of time just opening doors. Sometimes going back to the same place and opening the same door again. So yes, I hope you like door opening. And the biggest killer for me for this game was the bugs. Bear in mind I'm playing this on the Xbox One S and I'm playing it technically in early access, but close enough so I think it really is the final polished version, and I encountered the saving bug. Worse than that is that I encountered a saving bug, i.e. it doesn't save your progress and keeps spinning around and doesn't let you go any further at times, when I was fighting the main boss of Act 2, and this boss is a bastard. It has some auto kill moves where it shoves into you and just breaks your skull. It has this sequence at times where the screen goes all red and you've lost track of where the boss is because reasons. And you have to use the ice to your advantage again, which is very cool, but also very stressful when you're trying to line your shots with the floor to make sure you actually create a hole big enough for the boss. Basically, I beat the boss, not played against it, but beat it 3 times. The first time I did so, I had my next video, that was cool, I went to the next area, and then it cut. It just cut me off the game completely, and I went back to the start, to the Xbox menu. I'm like, what happened? I load it again, I've got to do the boss battle a second time. The second time, I get it done, and I get the achievement. So I'm thinking, okay, I now have the achievement, so surely it's been saved now. So I play, I go to another area, finally it doesn't cut, and I'm just standing around, and I'm like, okay, new gameplay sequence, brand new area, I'm now in Act 3, I can continue. So I close the game, and a few hours later, go back to it. I'm back at the fucking boss again! For the 3rd time! And he kills me a bunch of times, so yeah, very frustrated. I almost stopped playing the campaign, to be honest with you. I was like, this was pretty good until then. Now, but I continued, I finished it, and I'm glad I did, but that was a major pain in the A. Since then though, I think the Coalition has sorted it and I've not encountered that bug again. Other things that occur include your teammates just popping into place. Other times they just leave you behind or they just stay around and you have to get to an area by yourself until eventually they decide to come, or you get killed and restart with them now present. Sometimes you can get contents of a safe that Jack opens for you, but you get the contents before he opens it for you. And one time during a video sequence, the frame rate tanked quite a bit. Right, moving on, and visually this is a nice treat for the eyes. Character models are very lovingly crafted, everyone has their own distinct look to them. Lighting effects, particularly in darker areas, are particularly polished. It does have god rays from what I've seen from open windows. Going through various locations like the bar or the theatre are a visual delight. The snow and sand act as you would expect, and there are some really great landscapes with regards to the storms and broken cities that you clamber over. Basically, it's a nice looking game, which is to be expected for an Xbox exclusive, and gets a thumbs up from me for that. With regards to sound, and the voice acting is particularly good in this one, but they do have a lot of well-established voice actors such as John DiMaggio playing Marcus Phoenix. This in particular is one of my favourite lines.
At test fires. We need an actual target.
If we're selecting targets, shouldn't someone with real military authority be here?
It's Foz, right?
Yeah, yes, sir.
Shut the fuck up, Foz.
Yep, sir.
And so I guess as well as I can't believe it's not Russia, they also have I can't believe it's not East End London as well, judging by that guy's accent. With regards to the tracks themselves, nothing really stood out to me in this one, with maybe the exception of the exotic noises heard in the desert section. Nothing really spoke out to me, which I think is deliberate because they wanted to keep the focus on the gunplay more so than anything else. Not to say that the sound is bad by any means, it's just it's very understated and not very major in terms of how the story goes, with the one exception of the very ending music when it comes to events happening, and it goes into this very quiet, then slow piano/violin score, which is very nice and a good counterbalance to the action going on beforehand. So once you've done with the campaign, you then got multiplayer, and you've got various modes you can try out. It has the standard versus, which is my personal favourite. I am a little basic when it comes to multiplayer, and this I think has one notable difference compared to previous entries of the franchise. There aren't as many shotguns. In fact, I don't think you can play a character that starts off with a single shotgun, and that's important because in past games shotguns were a little, let's say, overused. Very popular they were. Going up to someone when they can't see you and shooting them in the back is a great way of getting kills. This one has a lot more range to it. You can still get up close, you can still chainsaw them to death, but I've had a lot more kills and being killed a lot more from range in this one. So your Lancer is now a lot more important than it was before. Matchmaking is still quite good, particularly in the arcade mode where they try to get teams as balanced as possible. In fact, in my last game we lost only by 2 kills, which was very close, and at times I thought we had it. Although from what I've played, I think the maps are maybe a little smaller. I do remember Gears 4 them being particularly more extensive, but maybe that will get changed in various improvements throughout this game's duration. I do know the character roster is a lot smaller compared to when I played Gears 4, but then again Gears 4 had a lot more updates to it when I got around to playing it, so I'm sure in time we'll have a lot more people to kill, which is always nice. And while we're on the subject of people to kill, can we talk about all these new guest characters coming into my Gears? What's all these Halo people? And Batista from WWE, he left! I do like playing as the Terminator characters though, particularly as Linda Hamilton. So nothing is more badass than a 6-year-old lady wearing sunglasses and uppercutting a robot to death. It's a shame they're only limited to multiplayer, but hey, what can you do? Other modes include more Horde, and as I said, that's more Horde. You and a bunch of people have waves of enemies, you do get to use the Fabricator again, so that's nice, and you see how long you can survive. It's Horde mode, I'm sure you played it before. And then one of the new additions is this mode where you and 2 other teammates have to escape from a hive. This one is more timed, it has very limited ammunition, and it has various people you play with certain weapon loadouts. On the whole, I wasn't too impressed with it. It seemed rather basic, and it's done better in other games such as Left 4 Dead or Warhammer Vermintide, but I guess it's a nice string to Gears' bow. With limited ammo though, it can be very frustrating when your teammates take the last bit of it and you're left with just a flash grenade and a Hail Mary. But, and this is something I will put a lot of attention into later, you can create your own hive modes in this. So yeah, that's always good. Any game which gives you the option to create levels and have other people play said levels is definitely something worth putting time into. So thank you, V Coalition, for that. That is much appreciated. Now, I'm well aware this has been a very long review, much longer than my normal ones, so thank you very much for making it this far, if indeed you have done, and if you haven't, well, watch it again. For me, I think this is one of the better Gears of War games out there, and it's not even called Gears of War, it's just Gears now. When using the Xbox Game Pass or the Ultimate Game Pass, you really can't go wrong with this. It's a fun, entertaining, in-depth campaign with lots of multiplayer action to enjoy as well. Gears 5, for me, gets 4 Sarah Connors out of 5. Now, you might be thinking, that seems rather low for it, but yes, the saving issue was a big issue. It nearly killed it for me. And maybe if you play the campaign and you don't get the issue, treat it as a 4.5. Also, I didn't like all the busy work. And for the second campaign in a row, I don't get to play as Damon Baird. Don't get me wrong, this is a great game. And if you're new to Gears, don't worry, it has a feature that gets you up to date with the lore. It runs over Gears of War 4, so you know exactly where you're coming from, and it's just a nice package to get invested in. The ending is a little unsatisfying, and it's obviously leading to another sequel to round out this trilogy, but I for one am fully in the mood for more Gears in the future. I probably should play Judgment. Anyway, that's all for me, and I will see you next time for some Void Bastards. Bye for now.